Your Excellency, Sir Rodney Williams, Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda, Your Excellency Prime Minister Gaston Alfonso Browne, distinguished heads of state and government, ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I declare open the 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States and call to order its first plenary meeting. In accordance with Rule 17 of its Provisional Rules of Procedure, as contained in document A/conf.223/2024/2, I will serve as temporary President of the Conference until the election of the President. And I want to extend to all of you a warm welcome. I now invite the Conference to proceed with the election of the President. It is my understanding that there is general agreement among delegations to elect His Excellency Gaston Alfonso Browne, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Corporate Governance and Public-Private Partnership of Antigua and Barbuda, as President of the Conference. May I take it that the Conference wishes to proceed with this election by acclamation? It is so decided. I congratulate His Excellency Gaston Alfonso Browne on his election, and I invite him to take his seat at the podium to take over the proceedings of the Conference, and I request the protocol to escort His Excellency.
Thank you. Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Dennis Francis, President of the General Assembly, Your Excellency Paula Naves, President of the Economic and Social Council, distinguished heads of state and government, ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a privilege for me to have been elected as President of the 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States. I thank you sincerely for your confidence. Excellencies, I shall now deliver an opening statement in my capacity as the President of this conference. All protocols observed. Esteemed Secretary General, and certainly the President, ladies and gentlemen, it is both an honor and a profound responsibility to address you as we gather here in Antigua for the 4th International Conference on SIDS under the theme, Charting the Course to Resilient Prosperity. This is a crucial gathering at a time of unprecedented global challenges in which SIDS find themselves on the front line of a battle against a confluence of crises, none of which they have caused or created. Our inherent vulnerabilities, characterized by small size, limited financial resources, and constrained human capital, place us at a marked disadvantage on the global stage, with the scales of equity and justice unevenly balanced against us. The large-scale polluters whose CO2 emissions have fueled these catastrophic climate changes bear a responsibility, an obligation of compensation to aid in our quest to build resilience. Our journey towards development has been repeatedly disrupted by monumental global crises, among them the financial meltdown of 2008 and the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic. These events, exacerbated by the relentless climate crisis, have severely undermined our efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. This backdrop makes the call for urgent multilateral solutions even more critical. We are gathered here not merely to reiterate our challenges, but to demand and enact solutions. The Global North, in particular, must honor its commitments, including the pivotal pledge of $100 billion in climate financing to assist with adaptation and mitigation, as well as the effective capitalization and operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund. These are imperative investments in humanity, in justice, and the equitable future of humanity. This year has been the hottest in history in practically every corner of the globe, foretelling severe impacts in our ecosystems and starkly underscoring the urgency of our predicament. To ignore this is to gamble with our collective future. Continuing with business as usual is not just negligence, it is an active choice that invites disaster. Such indifference will reverberate disastrously, affecting every nation, every community, and every individual across the planet. Oil-producing companies, as significant contributors to the environmental challenges that now endanger us all, must be held accountable for their pivotal role in this global climate crisis, in which they have prioritized profits over environmental sustainability. Isn't it high time to end fossil fuel subsidies and for these companies to be held accountable to reduce emissions and to accelerate the transition to renewable energy resources to protect lives and livelihoods? Shouldn't a global carbon tax be levied on these oil companies that are consistently enjoying supernormal profits to provide much-needed climate financing? Distinguished delegates, we stand at a juncture where our actions are the fate of SIDS, as well as the legacy we leave for future generations. It is imperative that we act now, not being resolved. The major contributors to climate change have failed to meet their obligations to mitigate its effects, causing significant harm to SIDS and our planet in general. That is why, together with the then Prime Minister of Tuvalu, I established the Commission of Small Island States in Climate Change and International Law, COSIS, at COP26 in 2021 to seek climate justice and to advocate for rights. Acting on behalf of SIDS, COSIS successfully obtained a historic and unanimous advisory opinion from ITLAS on May 21, 2024. This ruling affirmed the legal duty of all nations to immediately mitigate greenhouse gas emissions, to keep temperature rise within 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels in protection and preservation of the marine environment. I specifically held that it is not sufficient for nations to simply make empty and grossly inadequate commitments under the Paris Agreement. We must hold them accountable. Let me be clear. While COSIS will persist in legally safeguarding SIDS interests, my hope is that future COPs will deliver the necessary results, averting the need for further code action. And I add here that if we have to take further code action, we certainly will. I urge the major polluters to recognize and respect this historic ruling as an imperative to the fulfillment of their global legal obligations, particularly towards SIDS, and accordingly to act in the best interests of our planet and all humanity. Our collective efforts over this critical decade must forge a path and address immediate challenges thereby setting a foundation for long-term resilience and prosperity. Our path to resilient prosperity must be paved with stones of international cooperation to build capacity in disaster risk reduction, climate adaptation, digitalization, air and maritime transportation, in healthcare, in education, and overall sustainable development. Debt relief, capacity building, and technological transfer, climate adaptation and mitigation funding are essential deliverables that would enable us to protect the environment and advance our economies. At this conference, the establishment of a Center of Excellence to serve as a global data hub for innovative technologies and investment for SIDS will be a pivotal outcome for the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, the ABBAS 10-year framework. This center will harness the power of data to inform decision-making and ensure that our steps towards sustainable development are guided by timeliness and accuracy. The costs of inaction are high and growing, felt by escalated costs of living as prices surge on vital imports throughout the supply chain. This strains our economies and burdens our citizens, diminishing their quality of life and stifling their developmental ambitions. On Tuesday, we will launch our Debt Service Support Initiative, DSSI, which will call for the reform of the international financial architecture to deliver innovative, bespoke financing that goes beyond traditional concessional financing. The DSSI will include debt for climate swaps, insurance instruments, SDRs, green and blue bonds, and the leveraging of public-private partnerships to fulfill their potential in supporting our sustainable developmental goals. The adoption and use of the multi-dimensional vulnerability index will also be critical to assist middle and high-income SIDS to access much-needed concessional financing and grants, especially during periods of crises. As we chart this course toward resilient prosperity, let us ignite a renewed spirit of determination and a blazing fire of hope and action. The outcomes of this SIDS 4 conference must not only be a blueprint for action, they must mark a new era of fervent and persistent progress. Let it be proclaimed that here on the shores of Antigua and Barbuda, we did more than dream of a resilient future. We acted decisively with unyielding passion and unwavering resolve in devising strategies to achieve resilient prosperity for our peoples. Let us rise to the task with the courage and the commitment that history will remember. I thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.